In 2011, Jake and his wife Tiffany faced challenges with the construction of their new home and their demanding careers. Jake, 32, worked as a lead investigator for Independent Investigations Corporation, IC, while Tiffany, 29, managed the accounting department at Chatham Howe DSH. Early that year, Greg Bartlett became the new manager of DC's City Branch, and William Hanson, a VP, transferred from the New York office. Jake was wary of Hanson's wandering eye, despite his professional reputation. By summer, the Thompson home construction was back on track, and they moved in that August, excited for a fresh start. Jake suggested they start trying for a baby. "I think it's time you stop taking your birth control pills, and we start trying to get you pregnant," Jake said. "I think we should wait a little longer," Tiffany replied. William suggested I wait until next year. He said he might be up for a promotion by the end of the year, so he wants to wait until after that. Jake was irritated. She had discussed their family plans with Hanson. "Why did you discuss our family plans with him?" he asked. "If we were planning to have children, so I told him we planned to start in the fall," Tiffany explained. "That's when he suggested I wait until next year." Jake reluctantly agreed to wait until January. As the year-end approached, both were swamped with work. At dinner one weekend, Tiffany shared exciting news. "We're likely to close a deal with National Pharmaceutical by December 20th, which means I should get my promotion," she said. "That's fantastic," Jake replied. "Then we can start trying for a baby. How about tonight?" "Not tonight," Tiffany said. "I'm still on the pill, and I want to settle into my new job first. And don't tell anyone about this. It could jeopardize the deal." Though disappointed, Jake understood. In December, they attended their respective company Christmas parties. At IC's subdued party on the 6th, Jake and Tiffany enjoyed themselves with Jake's friend Bill Ripley and his wife, Susan. The following Saturday, Jake found Tiffany troubled, staring out the window after dinner. He gently probed what was wrong. "There's a problem with the pharmaceutical deal," Tiffany said. "Mr. Benson, our president, is making unrealistic demands. If we can't meet them, we might lose the contract. It could ruin everything for us." "It won't ruin everything. No matter what happens, we have each other," Jake reassured her. "What's the worst-case scenario?" "You don't get it," she replied. "If this deal falls apart, it could be because of me. And if I mess this up, I could lose my job." "But how could it be your fault if you're not in sales?" Jake pressed. "I can't say more. I'm not supposed to talk about it outside of DSH. All I can tell you is that I didn't do anything wrong." "If you didn't do anything wrong, then why would you lose your job?" Jake pressed. "I've said too much already. I could get into trouble just for telling you this much." "Please let me handle this on my own," Tiffany insisted. Jake wanted to say more, but could tell the conversation was over. The next week, Tiffany seemed withdrawn and left early for work, citing important meetings. By Wednesday, she seemed slightly better, kissing Jake and saying she loved him. "Is work any better now?" Jake asked. "I can't discuss it with you," she replied. "I'm under a lot of pressure, but I'll manage." That night, Tiffany sought comfort but wasn't interested in intimacy. Her issues weighed on Jake. Unable to sleep, he went downstairs for a drink and noticed Tiffany's briefcase. Compelled, he opened it and found her day planner, revealing meetings with Bartlett, Hanson, and Benson on the month-at-a-glance page for December. Jake found puzzling entries on the 6th. Tiffany wrote started, and each day after was numbered 1 through 14. The 20th, with 14 circled and underlined, caught his attention. Jake wondered if it related to her meeting with Hanson that morning or the company Christmas party. He couldn't figure out the number of days, but knew he needed time to understand. Over the next few days, Tiffany's mood improved, but she remained distant, going over a week without intimacy with Jake. On December 13th, Jake closed the case and celebrated with his colleague, Bill Ripley, over beers. Jake mentioned finding the numbered days in a planner, and Bill suggested he consult their top female investigator, Mary Farrell, for insight. Jake dropped the topic to avoid Bill getting suspicious. Another frustrating weekend passed. Monday morning, Jake mentioned possibly working late to finish his cases. Tiffany reminded him about the party on Friday, insisting he'd be home by 7 to get ready. Jake closed his second case on Tuesday and took Tiffany to dinner, but she claimed illness, and they still didn't connect. On Thursday, Jake invited Mary to lunch and explained the planner notations without revealing whose it was. Mary smiled knowingly. You said she wrote started on the 6th and then numbered the days 1 through 14 with the 20th circled and underlined, right? Mary confirmed that's correct. Jake said the 20th was highlighted. I think she wrote started on the 6th because that's when her last period began, and then she counted 14 days to the day she's most likely to conceive. Mary explained, she's tracking her cycle because she's trying to get pregnant. Does that make sense in your case? Jake was surprised. I'm not certain, but it could make sense in this case. Thanks for your help. Jake spent the afternoon puzzled. Why was Tiffany tracking her cycle when she wasn't planning to stop birth control? A tight feeling grew in his gut as pieces didn't add up. Arriving home around 5:30, Jake noticed the hall light on. Peeking in the window, he saw an undressed Tiffany at the top of the stairs with a towel and shaving cream. She paused in the living room, appearing lost in thought. Not wanting to startle her, Jake entered through the garage so she'd hear the door inside. He heard another door close. Moving through the house, there was no sign of Tiffany. Tiffany, I'm home, Jake called out, heading upstairs from the bathroom. Tiffany, she responded. You're home early. That's great. I'm in the bathroom, getting ready. Why don't you use the shower in the guest bathroom? Why? I'm busy in here. Jake walked into the bathroom. Tiffany sat on the tub edge, hurriedly covering herself, but Jake saw her pubic hair covered in shaving cream. It was supposed to be a surprise, she explained. A surprise for who? For you, of course. I wanted to surprise you when we got home from the party tonight. Did I ever tell you I wanted you to shave down there? No, but I thought I don't recall you ever mentioning wanting to do this, Jake interrupted. Where did you get the idea that I wanted you to shave? I've never said anything like that. Tiffany struggled to answer. I thought it might be something new. A lot of women are doing it these days, and I thought you might like it. Don't you think we should have talked about this first to see how I feel? Maybe, but it's not a big deal. It's my body, and if I want to shave, it's my decision. It'll grow back if we don't like it. Her point made sense, but Jake wasn't ready to concede. Don't do it now. Let's discuss it later, if it's that important to you. You can shave tomorrow. Tiffany looked angry and fearful, which puzzled Jake. I'm ready to do it now, so why should I wait? She demanded. Because your husband is asking you to wait. I don't want you to shave. I don't want to feel like I'm with a child. Why is it so urgent that you do it now? I was all set to do it, and I want to do it now. It's my body, and if I want to shave, I will. Fine, go ahead and shave. But if you do, you'll have to go to the party alone, Jake stated firmly, turning to leave. Why are you being so unfair? It's something I want to do, so why are you making such a big deal out of it? Tiffany pleaded. I'm making a big deal because I don't think you're being honest about why you want to shave. You know, I like your hair, so I know this isn't about me. If you can't tell me the truth, then I won't discuss this any further. You can leave it alone and we'll go to the party together. Or you can shave and go alone. It's up to you. Tiffany sat down, the razor showered, and remained silent as she dressed provocatively. Jake suspected it wasn't for his benefit at the party. Hanson greeted them and pulled Tiffany aside. She nodded and shook her head during their conversation, which upset Hanson. He smiled and suggested something Tiffany reluctantly agreed to. Tiffany told Jake the pharmaceutical deal was closing that night with a 10 p.m. meeting. If it went well, she'd get her promotion. Jake asked if they could then try for a baby, and she agreed unenthusiastically. Entering the party, Jake spotted a man in an Armani suit by the bar. He didn't recognize him. He pointed him out to Tiffany. Who's the guy over by the bar? Jake asked. I don't know, she replied unconvincingly. Why don't we grab a drink at the bar? Some of my colleagues are here. I want to say hello to them. Could you get us drinks, and I'll wait here? Tiffany countered. At the bar, Jake greeted the man. Mr. Benson, how's your evening going? How do you know me? Benson asked, surprised. It's part of my job. I need to take this wine to Miss Thompson first. Then I'd like to chat with you if you're okay with that. Benson studied Jake wearily. Sure thing. I'll be right here. After bringing Tiffany her drink, Jake returned to Benson. I'm Jake from DC Security, just ensuring everything goes smoothly tonight. Looks like Mr. Hanson's planned an enjoyable evening, Jake said. That's what he's saying. Benson replied, I'm just passing time until things kick off. Sounds like that starts around 10 for you. You seem to know a lot. Benson said nervously. Part of the job tonight. I'm here to make sure you're undisturbed, especially later, Jake added with a wink. You're into brunettes, right? Love them, especially with long hair like Miss Thompson. Exactly, Benson said, smirking. I bet you're like me, prefer a lot of hair up top, but none down below. Huh, he said, winking. Bald is nice, Benson chuckled. Jake held back his anger and moved on before losing his temper. I need to circulate now. Make sure everyone's where they should be. If you run into any trouble, find me, Jake said as he walked away, muttering curses under his breath. When the band started playing, Tiffany declined a man's invitation to dance and pulled Jake onto the dance floor. Jake kept an eye on Benson, not wanting him to realize he was Tiffany's husband yet. After a slow dance with Tiffany, holding her tightly, they returned to their table. Greg Bartlett approached with a small package, whispered to Tiffany, and left. She hid the package and leaned down at Jake. I need to go to the restroom, she said. Jake sensed something troubling in her eyes. Don't do it, he warned. What? Jake grabbed her arm firmly. You know exactly what I mean. I'm not stupid. I know what's going on here. Stop it now. I don't know what you're talking about. I just need to go to the restroom. Tiffany pulled away and left. While she was gone, Jake pieced together the troubling details. Her calling Hanson William, her depression over the deal, the meetings, tracking her cycle, their shaving argument. He suspected Benson demanded she shave for him earlier. Jake had seen Hanson's hand reach out and touch an undressed Tiffany through the window. Realizing the situation, Jake entered through the garage to let them stop. Peeking out, he saw Hanson scurrying to his car. Jake figured Bartlett's package contained shaving cream and a razor for Tiffany to shave for Benson. It was 9:45, and time was running out as Jake headed to find Tiffany. The band announced a break, seeing Benson, Bartlett, and Hanson at the bar. Jake approached the lead singer. Can you keep your mic on? I need to make a few announcements. Sure, no problem. It's already on. Just flip the switch on the side, and you're good to go. Jake gathered his thoughts and switched on the mic. Can I have everyone's attention, please? The room grew quiet, and Tiffany stood in the doorway. Jake glanced at the three men watching curiously. Thank you. I just want to take a moment to speak on this special occasion. First, I want to say what a fantastic party this is. Let's give a round of applause to those who organized it. Almost everyone clapped as Tiffany walked toward Jake, looking fearful. I've had a few drinks and I'm feeling good, so I hope this comes out right. I want to share some things about my wife, Tiffany, and me. Jake smiled at Tiffany, then turned to the men at the bar. First, some good news. Tiffany and I are expecting a baby. Applause broke out. Tiffany covered her face, looking embarrassed. Hanson appeared angry, Bartlett puzzled, and Benson's expression was unreadable. And there's more good news, Tiffany informed. I found out tonight she's getting a promotion for her work on the national pharmaceutical deal. I hear Tiffany, Mr. Bartlett, Mr. Hanson, and Mr. Benson will be upstairs signing the contract. Isn't that great? More applause filled the room. Oh God, please stop, Tiffany said, sinking to the floor. The first two men looked furious, while Benson seemed amused. This evening started off so oddly that I figured I'd share it with you. When I got home from work tonight, I found my wife in the bathroom about to shave, and not her legs or armpits. Some laughter rippled through the stunned crowd. We argued about it. She said it was supposed to be a surprise for me, and I told her not to do it. I thought I'd won that argument, or at least I thought so. Now I realize she wasn't shaving for me. She was doing it on William's orders. Tiffany lay on the floor, crying. Hanson's face burned red as he trembled. Bartlett strode toward Jake as if to stop him. Tiffany shaved because she was supposed to be a gift to Mr. Benson tonight, and he wanted her shaved. Apparently, your company's management thinks it's good business to encourage employees to sleep with potential clients to secure contracts, even if it wrecks a marriage. Bartlett tried to grab the mic. Jake yanked it away and switched it off. Listen, jerk, you try grabbing this mic again, and I'll drop you like a sack of bricks. Actually, come to think of it, I might do that anyway. Bartlett stepped back and glanced at Hanson. Jake switched the mic back on. Lastly, this is for Bartlett and Hanson. I'm filing a lawsuit against this company for what you did to my marriage, and I expect a decent settlement. Part of that will be your termination, you two a-holes, and anyone else involved in this mess. Good night, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your party. The room fell silent. Jake sat down the mic, walked to Tiffany on the floor, and squatted beside her. Tiffany. She looked up, tears streaming. Jake, I'm so... Tiffany didn't say anything. Do you still think you'll get that promotion? Jake stood, glanced at Tiffany one last time, and left. In the lobby, Hanson blocked his path. Do you have any idea what you've done? Hanson demanded. Yeah, Jake replied. I screwed you before you and Dee could screw my wife, and I hope I cost you millions. I'd hate to think we went through all this for just a few hundred. You're going to pay for this, Hanson warned. Actually, I think you'll be the one paying, Jake retorted. Along with my lawsuit, I'll be making your business practices very interesting. Jake turned to leave, but Hanson grabbed his arm. Just a minute, I'm not done with you, he said. Jake shook off his grip. Touch me again, and you won't be walking out of here tonight, he warned as he walked away. He heard Hanson cursing. At home, Jake drank whiskey to drown everything out. On his second drink, he noticed a blue plastic case hidden in a potted plant. Tiffany's birth control pills. Opening it confirmed his suspicion. It's completely full, he muttered. After more drinks, Jake woke up Saturday on the sofa, dizzy and nauseous. He showered and made coffee. Tiffany wasn't home, likely scared or angry after he disrupted everything. Jake pondered his next move, pained by how much he had loved Tiffany. Her willingness to be intimate with a customer, even shaving for him on Hanson's orders, was devastating. He doubted he could forgive her, but felt she deserved a chance to explain. As Jake waited, the phone rang. He answered on the sixth ring. Mr. Thompson, yes, this is Special Agent Mark Walker of the FBI. Is your wife with you? My wife isn't home. What's this about? I need to speak with you. Can you come to my office this afternoon? Jake agreed to meet at 2 p.m. He wondered why the FBI was interested in him, guessing it related to a recent case, but Agent Walker's invitation left him uneasy. At 1 p.m., Jake drove downtown to the FBI offices. The receptionist had him wait for Agent Walker. Mr. Thompson, thanks for coming in. Please follow me to a conference room. Agent Walker offered Jake coffee, and they sat across from each other. Should I call you Special Agent Walker or Mr. Benson? Jake asked. Why don't you try Mark? And may I call you Jake? Jake will be fine. I imagine you must be pretty confused right now. Now, yes, I am, but I think I'm starting to understand. You were undercover as Mr. Benson. That's correct. I'm relying on your discretion to keep everything we discuss confidential. Mark, said Jake, I'm an investigator myself, so I understand. I'm still unsure if you're on my side or not. I hope you can explain all of this, including how my wife got caught up in this mess. I'll tell you what I can and answer your questions, as long as it doesn't jeopardize our investigations, all right? I'll listen, but I have to tell you, I'm really angry that my wife was manipulated like this. This situation may have ruined my marriage, but things might not be as dire as you think. Let me fill you in first, and then you can ask your questions. Mark explained that the SEC had contacted the FBI about troubling information regarding DC's business practices from an insider. The FBI investigated and found enough evidence to conduct undercover operations. During the investigation, they discovered DCH was trying to interest National Pharmaceutical in a merger. The real Mr. Benson, concerned about DC's methods, agreed to let Mark impersonate him. Mark convinced Hanson and Bartlett he was Benson, leading them to believe he would sign a contract as they anticipated the deal. Mark hesitated to see how they would persuade him to sign. So you involved my wife, Jake asked. Not exactly, Mark replied. During my initial visits, I met your wife and mentioned wanting to speak with her. Hanson's response was, she's quite attractive, isn't she? I agreed, but that wasn't my reason. Why did you want to talk to her? I told Hanson that because Tiffany was head of accounting, I wanted to discuss the company's financial health. The real reason was that your wife had alerted the SEC about how DCH was conducting business. So Tiffany knew you were working undercover for the FBI. No, she didn't, Mark continued. I couldn't tell her. The information she provided implicated people higher up than Bartlett and Hanson. Given that my mission was to investigate them, I couldn't be sure she wouldn't expose me to protect the others. Jake realized Tiffany had blown the whistle on the company executives. Mark continued, explaining how he hinted to Hansen about backing out of the deal. Hansen asked what it would take to secure my commitment. I inquired what he had to offer. That's when Hansen said, "I noticed you found Tiffany Thompson attractive. How would you like to get with her?" I was taken aback. I expected a bribe. Curious to see where this would lead, I indicated I might be interested, but I didn't commit. The next part may be difficult for you to hear, but it's crucial to the story. Mark warned, "There's nothing you can say that would be more upsetting than what I've already been through." Mark met with Hansen again days later. Hansen confirmed his offer meant arranging for Mark to have intimacy with Tiffany. Mark pretended to be unsure if she would be worth it. Hansen reassured him she would be, and mentioned she had shaved. "Wouldn't you like that?" he asked. "So you never suggested that Tiffany shave herself?" Jake asked. "No," Mark replied. "Since I hadn't planned on having intimacy with her, that idea never crossed my mind." He was also unsure how Hansen could deliver on his promise. So he asked him how he planned to convince a married woman to agree to this in exchange for a contract signature. "Don't worry about that. If you want her, she's yours, shaved and all," was his response. Jake cursed Hansen. Mark let Hansen continue, then asked when he could meet with Tiffany. Hansen said they could do it at the Christmas party. Jake's mind reeled from the information. "So you were really going to go through with it? You were going to have intimacy with my wife just to keep your undercover investigation going?" "No, that wasn't my plan at all," Mark clarified. "Firstly, it would be unethical. Secondly, I was almost certain the room would be bugged to gather evidence they wanted to use it, not just to persuade me to sign, but also to potentially blackmail me." "How were you planning to get out of it?" Jake asked. "I planned to back out at the last moment, claiming the conditions weren't right. Then I would propose closing the deal under the condition that Mrs. Thompson would join me in my hotel room after the party. I intended to reveal my identity and bring her here for questioning. Our plan was to arrest Bartlett and Hansen today. By this morning, we expected to have enough evidence to charge them both." Mark paused, then continued. "Then last night you approached me and introduced yourself, saying you were with security. I knew who you were and feared you might be involved in their scheme. I wasn't sure which side you were on until your speech." "Oh, damn," Jake said. "I hope I didn't mess up your investigation, but I couldn't just stand by and let my wife be used in some business deal." "I understand," Mark reassured him. "You actually helped. Your actions prevented me from having to attend the meeting with them last night at 10 o'clock. I left with my cover intact and was able to talk to Hansen again this morning. He offered me a large sum to sign today. I agreed to meet him in his office on Monday, where we plan to arrest him when he hands over the money. That's when we'll shut down DCH operations and thoroughly investigate every deal they've been involved in over the past 3 years." Jake tried to process everything. His mind spun with questions, but one stood out. "I still don't know where Tiffany stands in all of this." "Your wife was trying to do the right thing by reporting the company," Mark said, regarding her involvement in the offer made to him. "I suspect Hansen may have been coercing her, possibly blackmailing her." A thought occurred to Jake. "Did they mention using protection?" "Yes," Mark replied. "Once I agreed to the deal, Hansen emphasized that Tiffany insisted I wear protection. We wouldn't want to get the poor girl pregnant. Would we?" Hansen said. Jake's heart sank. He knew he needed to find Tiffany and hear her side. She wasn't entirely innocent, but there were circumstances that might explain her actions. Mark said that was all he could share for now and advised Jake not to discuss the investigation or tell Tiffany anything yet. They would want to speak with her once Bartlett and Hansen were indicted. Jake agreed to keep quiet. They shook hands, and Jake left. At home, Jake found a message from Tiffany asking him to call. A woman answered the number Tiffany left. "May I ask who's calling?" "Tell her it's her husband." Tiffany sounded nervous on the line. "Where have you been?" "I've been trying to reach you all day." "Not all day. I was home until 1 o'clock this afternoon." "Oh, that's about when I started calling you then." Jake stayed quiet, making Tiffany prove she was ready to explain. "Jake, can I come home? This is your home, isn't it? You should be here now. I'll be there in an hour." Jake hung up and started cooking dinner, so they could talk after he grabbed Tiffany's birth control pills and put the case in his pocket. Tiffany arrived at 6:05, and seeing dinner ready, some tension eased from her face. They ate in uncomfortable silence until Jake asked her where she had spent the night. One of my friends drove me home after you left. Oh, so you didn't stay for the rest of the party? You pretty much ended the party with your speech. I suppose I owe some people apologies for that. Not to you, and certainly not to Bartlett or Hanson. I guess you're right. I owe you an apology. Jake suggested they finish dinner first, afterwards. Tiffany started cleaning up, but Jake insisted they talk immediately in the family room. Jake demanded the truth. I'll tell you everything, Tiffany replied. She recounted how the day after Jake's Christmas party, Hanson called, saying the pharmaceutical deal was in jeopardy. Mr. Benson would only sign if Tiffany agreed to intimacy with him. Tiffany was furious, but Hanson pressured her, promising a big reward. She said she needed time to think. Bartlett and Hanson kept pushing her. Hanson warned it would be her fault if the deal failed, and they'd fire her if she spoke up. She tried to tell Jake what she could by Tuesday. Tiffany refused again. They told her to reconsider. Hanson claimed the company was missing over $100,000 and threatened an audit that would make Tiffany look like a thief. He promised money and a promotion if she obeyed, but threatened charges if she didn't. Tiffany felt she had no choice but to agree. Bartlett and Hanson kept pressuring her daily to not back out, insisting she was doing the right thing and Jake would understand. On Friday, Hanson said Benson wanted Tiffany to shave. She couldn't because Jake would be upset. But Hanson said it was non-negotiable or Benson would walk. Hanson told her to do it before the party, without Jake seeing, and later claim it was a surprise. If Jake got angry, she could just apologize and let it grow back. So was I right, Jake? Asked Tiffany. Did you shave in the restroom of the party? Tiffany looked down. Yes, Mr. Bartlett sent someone to buy a razor and shaving cream, and I went into the restroom and did it. When I came back to the party, I saw you with the microphone trying to get everyone's attention. I was so scared. I had no idea what you were doing, and I didn't know if there was any way I could stop you. I couldn't believe you said I was pregnant. I didn't say you were pregnant, Jake replied. I said we were planning to have a baby. We had discussed this, right? Well, yes, but what are we going to start a family or not? Yes, we are. I'll stop taking my birth control pills tomorrow, and then we can begin. Jake's expression hardened. One more thing. Did you tell Benson he had to use protection? William said he would make sure Benson used protection. I'm glad he did, because I hadn't thought about it. I was so stressed that I wasn't thinking clearly. Jake processed everything. So, what you're saying is Bartlett and Hanson pressured and blackmailed you into agreeing to have intimacy with Benson to close a business deal. They also insisted you shave yourself, but I messed things up by catching you in the act. Despite me telling you not to, you still went ahead and shaved in the end. The only reason you didn't sleep with Benson is because my speech ruined everything. Is that about right? Yes, but I don't blame you for what you did. I understand your reaction. Good. So you forgive me for trying to stop my wife from sleeping with another man? That's not what I meant. I know you had every right to react the way you did, and I shouldn't be upset with you. I'm upset with myself. I should have been honest with you from the start. Do you think you can ever forgive me? That depends. Is that everything? Have you told me all I need to know about what's been going on? Yes, I've told you everything. I love you, and I can't bear the thought of losing you because of this mess I got myself into. Well, things don't look as bad as they did at first. I just have a couple of questions I need answers to, and then maybe we can move past this. Jake took out the birth control pill case and tossed it on the coffee table. I found this in the trash the other day, and it's full. You threw away all your pills last week, but you didn't tell me. And you even tried to make me believe you were still taking them. Just 5 minutes ago, you said you'd stop taking them tomorrow. Can you explain that to me? Tiffany looked stunned, struggling to find an answer. You're right, I stopped taking my pills. I planned to let you get me pregnant and then surprise you. I knew how much you wanted to start a family, so I thought it would be a nice surprise. Jake continued, that plan would have only worked if we were actually having intimacy, but we haven't since the day before you stopped taking your pills. I was just so upset about what Mr. Bartlett and William wanted me to do that I wasn't in the mood for it. During that time, were you aware that last night was the most fertile night of your cycle? Tiffany seemed stunned again. No, I wasn't aware of that. I had too much on my mind to think about it. Jake decided to stop playing games. One more question, Tiffany. How long have you been involved with Hanson? Tiffany's response was simple and direct. No more lies. I know you were tracking your cycle, and marked last night on your planner. I know Hanson insisted Benson use protection, and since we weren't intimate, Hanson is the only one left. He wanted to get you pregnant, didn't he? Tears streamed down Tiffany's face as she didn't answer. Jake continued, It was Hanson who wanted you to shave, not Benson, and you did it despite me telling you not to. It shows he has more influence over you than I do. He wants to have a baby with you. Did you think I'd be so naive to believe it could be mine? Or were you planning to leave me from the start? You spent last night with him, didn't you? Tiffany cried loudly as Jake left the room. He returned with his suitcases, and seeing this, Tiffany jumped up and ran to him. Please don't leave me. I love you. I don't love William. I told you he blackmailed me. I had no choice but to do what he asked. Jake responded, Why didn't you just keep taking your birth control pills and lie to William about it? You had no problem lying to me. He paused before adding, Honestly, I trust what you tell that rat bastard more than anything you've told me lately. Jake replied, By the way, I forgot to mention that last night, while I was watching you in the living room, I heard you say, I love you, to that a-hole. So, where does that leave me? I don't love him. If I'm pregnant, I'll have a termination. I love you, please. You have to believe me, she begged. No, I don't, he replied. And as for the baby, don't abort it just because of me. Tiffany collapsed on the floor, crying. When Jake glanced back from the garage door, she looked as devastated as she had when he left her at the party the night before. He felt no love for her anymore, only disgust. Leaving the house they had worked so hard to build was hard, but it held no happy memories for him. Thankfully, they hadn't lived there long enough to form those memories.